You want to know the difference between Mother Nature and man? And why I think psychedelics are banned? Is because psychedelics show you the true grid, right? So what do I mean by that? So I'm in Mother Nature right now, and Mother Nature creates patterns. Look at your fingerprint. Look at the galaxy. Look at the leaves. Patterns. Fibonacci sequence, right? Man makes rectangles, squares, boxes. Everything's uniform, structured. Not in a pattern sequence, but just in a uniform sequence. There's a difference. And when you are on psychedelics, right? It's like they show you the nature of reality. And they don't want you to see. It's like these archons are designed here to keep us in this box. And they don't want you to see outside the illusion. Why you look at the Gnostics, why they were persecuted compared to the rest of the Christian set. Gnostics were persecuted because they were teaching the true message of what Yahshua came down here to do. To show you all that the divine power lies within every single one of you. Everyone has source energy embedded within them. You don't need a middleman. You don't need a priest. All you need is to tap in to yourself. And they don't like that, because if they give us the power, then that eliminates a need for religion, or them, the gatekeepers. I'm looking at this trail because I think I'm lost, but I think I'm gonna go this way. But yeah, the gatekeepers. You know, I was one of those people when I was younger. I questioned religion. I was like, but wait a minute. Why do I have to do this and obey this way? Or why? I think it's our generation, the ones who incarnated in this time around. We are the ones who are here to carry on the message of why the Gnostics were persecuted. Not just the Gnostics, but just look at every form of Abrahamic religion. There is a form of mysticism that questions the way or defies the way that the original religion was taught. And I think psychedelics, there's a correlation with the revelational knowledge that you receive on psychedelics, and same with meditating. You notice a lot of Eastern philosophy and even the mystic religions, the mystic sets of religions, they teach you to go within yourself. And you don't need psychedelics. Oh, I'm winded. There's a lot of elevation on this trail. But you don't need psychedelics to go within yourself. All psychedelics are doing is just teaching you to pull out what is already in there, right? You have all this divine information. Just walk into a spider web. Just coil it up in here, you know? Let me get out of my breath and my thoughts. The DNA, right? Coils. Kundalini energy, coils. That's what really happened with the fall of Eve. And that's the serpent. It was the fall of mankind. An energetic alignment falling from grace. That's all that really is. When they decided, you have duality, yin and yang. You'll notice that with every religion. You have duality. You know, they keep out Sophia, the divine pleroma, with Gnosticism. But you notice Adam and Eve, divine masculine, divine feminine, her biting the apple. All that is her coming into grace, coming into flesh, deciding to incarnate into this human form to learn the lessons that we are intended. Because Source said, you know what? I want to spread myself out into millions of pieces, billions of pieces across the entire multiverse. And I want to see who gets it, who understands the true path. That's all Source is. That's all everything is. And of course, there are forces in play that are designed to hinder you from this knowledge. But yeah, if you like this type of information, highly suggest you check out my book, How to Listen to the Universe, Ether Downloads. It was inspired. I'm telling you, when I go on hikes, I get into a flow state because this is how I receive my downloads. Meditating. True meditating. Everyone thinks meditation has to just be sitting still in a lotus position, and that you can't do that. That's good for being passive and absorbing your thoughts. But when I'm doing this active form of meditation, it puts me in flow, and I see all of my thoughts at once, and they just come. And sometimes it's overwhelming, and that's why I tend to do these videos, to kind of get these thoughts out of my head, you know, because every single one of y'all, I keep walking in the spider webs, have this same capability. You are all highly intelligent spiritual beings. You know, if you visit the Walter Russell Museum, I think that was the ignition that sparked my curiosity into learning true source. Because one thing that Walter Russell, that sticks out with me, that he says is, you don't need an earthly teacher to teach you what is already in here. You have cosmic consciousness. You have access to the Akashic records. All you have to do is tap into the frequency line. And you do that by meditating, which is exactly what I'm doing. Tapping in to that etheric universal knowledge that is vastly abundantly available. Yeah, cottonmouth. Your higher self, what I was talking about earlier, I can't stress this enough. Your higher self is that version of you that has lived through all eyes, has seen through everything. It's not source, it's an extension of source. Religion would call your higher self an archangel. And I know this because when I went to the Monroe Institute last year, we did a meditation. Well, we hemisync. And hemisyncing is one of the most powerful forms of connecting to the divine source. You're combining both the left and right hemisphere, the logical side, the creative side, and you're silencing the logical side, and you're getting back to that childlike state, you know? That childlike state where everything is a possibility. When we're young, when we're kids, we think that we can accomplish anything. That's manifesting. You tell a kid will believe they can do anything. And it's like once we become adults, we limit that. But that's why it's hard for a lot of adults to manifest, because we silence our creative, logical brain. How's it going?
Morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you? We silence our logical mind and we stop our own possibilities, right? But when you hemisync, it's like it activates it all over again. And you just kind of embrace the journey. That's where I met my higher self, by embracing. A lot of people tend to have these outer body experiences. I've had outer body experiences in a different way, to where my consciousness traveled. I remember it very vividly. We went into Focus 15, and that is this place where time and space truthfully doesn't exist. And it's like a bridge to the gateway before you get to like Focus 21 and stuff. I remember when we got to that point, I was on a beach, and then there was a triangular shaped UFO craft that was above me, and it had like I have a picture of it. I drew it. I'm on a hike. I don't have it, but it had this like circular light at the bottom of it, and then behind me was a doorway, a portal, and it had that, how's it going, spiral staircase that was leading me up. Because I set an intention prior to the meditation. I said, I want to meet my higher self, or I want to meet source. And at the top of that staircase, remember, spirals, coils, rising up that ladder, Jacob's ladder essentially, was a light, very bright, very calming light. That was source. And underneath that was my higher self. And I made my way to my higher self. It was this very comforting energy. And it said, I am the version of you that's lived through everything. And I finally understood when it has those gut feelings, those that hit you when you have that decision, you want to go left, but your gut is telling you to go right. Yeah, that's your higher self that already went left and experienced what that outcome was, where you don't survive. So it's like, in a way, we have a form of free will or choice, but it's slightly aided. But it's up to us to go with the flow of what our higher self is directing us. So anyways, getting back to the higher self, my higher self was telling me how it is the version of me that's lived through all lives, all incarnations. So everything that I feel like I'm missing out on, if you have FOMO, don't worry. When you reach your higher self, that's when you experience it. Because my higher self was showing me, if this is Earth 1, say Earth 333, for example, was the Earth where I became a creative director. I was an actor, became a director. And I was like, wow, I was so successful in that reality or that dimension of time. And the higher self was like, yeah, that's what you think. Essentially, summing it up, paraphrasing, the higher self speaks in a way of, it's very confusing to understand. You got to interpret it in a way that makes sense to you. But in layman's term, the higher self was talking about how none of those lives that I think are successful truly matter. Because in those lives, I got caught up in the flesh. I got caught up with the earthly experience. And that's why those lives are very insignificant on the cosmic level. And why this life is the important one, because this is the only life where I encountered the higher self. What's is the purpose? To get as close as source as you can, you know? And that's why all these ancient mystic teachings, they tell you to go within yourself and stop worrying about the earthly things, you know? Like you look at the hall of the heart of Mayat, right? The scale, the balance. You want to know why those people's hearts aren't light as a feather? Because they hold that karma, that debt. They're too caught up in the flesh. So they end up returning to the flesh because you cling to it. And that's what makes you heavy. Holding on to these earthly possessions. I guarantee you a lot of the pharaohs, they were buried with their earthly possessions, thinking that was going to serve them in the afterlife. But it's very important to know death. It's very important to know how to manifest in this lifetime, how to accept that your thoughts are creating your reality somewhere else, right? So what you put out there is forming. For example, if you think of a tree right now, it's forming somewhere else. And it's a delay for a lot of your manifestations to come into this plane of existence. If you think negative thoughts about yourself, guess what? That's the reality you're creating. So that's why I say it's important to manifest and control your thoughts, control how you speak about yourself. Remember, we are water. We are made of a lot of water, so water holds energy. And if you speak this negative energy into this water, guess what? Try it right now, actually. Have a glass of water, speak negative thoughts into that water, and speak positive thoughts into another glass of water, and you'll see which one tastes better. That's what you're doing to yourself. Not only that, all your thoughts are going out there in the ether, just pinging. You don't want that energy. What you want to do is be kind to yourself and be kind to others, because at the end of the day, we're all an extension of source. That is all my thoughts I have for right now. This has been a good 15-minute yap session. I hope you all enjoy. If you don't watch any of my videos, check out this one. If you enjoyed this video, check out my book, How to Listen to the Universe, Ether Downloads. It's available in the link in the bio, because everything that I talk about, it's there, but it's more advanced. It dives into a lot, from the Akashic Records, the true war on psychedelics, how to meditate, how to access the Akashic Records, everything that I essentially just talked about, but mainly going with the flow of life, the Wu Wei, that energy. That is why I mess with Taoism, because it is how I live my life according to the Tao, going with the flow. And I'm not here to get into religious debates with anyone, because those who know source know that you will never project your own interpretation onto source. I know that anyone who comes to me and preaches to me about Yahshua, like Yahshua is the way, you don't know Yahshua. I hate to tell you that, because if you knew Yahshua and you followed my content, you'll know that I'm teaching you all the exact same thing Yahshua was trying to say that gets hidden. But there are a lot of books that were hidden, and that is all.